James, thank you. That was brilliant. And I'm glad this polling is carrying on. I can't remember if I was involved in that first question or not. I probably was. But that whole thing about the trade-off is still stuff that advisors talk about all the time, which is a massive issue. And another thing to touch on there, the coal, oil and gas exclusion bit, year after year, and Google Analytics has stopped now, so we're having trouble crunching this data now, but the single most important issue, or the thing that gets clicked on most often on Fund EcoMarket, our database, has always been excludes coal, oil and gas majors. People use our SRI styles, they love them. But if you're looking for an individual issue, it's avoiding oil companies. It has been for years, which I would tend to say they have a fair point. Although clearly there's a case for some engagement, but it hasn't necessarily worked just yet. So, slightly disconcerting the way these slides work, but anyway, so coming into a few thoughts on this, what are we talking about here? For most intermediaries, in most of financial services in the UK, and probably most places, there's been real confusion going on about what this market looks like and how it works. And there are some of us who've been in it for a really, really long time and can tell you exactly where it came from, why the different strands exist, and how things will land. But broadly what we've seen over the last few years is investors saying, whoa, this stuff is actually too big to ignore. So it started to get into all the boardrooms and regulation and pretty much across the board. So ESG is being integrated across pretty much most investments now, right? So what we've seen is a real confusion, because when people go, oh, we include ESG now, we need to call this an ESG fund. No, that doesn't really make it a fund that specialises in the area. It just makes it a fund that is managing some risks that, I would say they ought to have always been managing. But so there's a real difference between those funds that really focus on this stuff, like basically the managers that are here today mostly, for their funds that they're talking about specifically, and those other funds that just are aware of the fact that, gosh, the world's actually changing here, guys. We're getting in a bit of trouble, so we need to manage this better. My next thought on this is that, so it's become business as usual, and actually I need to add on to this first, that SDR obviously seeks to highlight those differences, and as some of you will know, I've been working with the FCA for quite a long time on this, actually pre-DLAG and SDR, just having conversations and introduce them to people and trying to help the regulators understand the market, because you can only come up with something really good if you really understand where we are, and you know where we are, and then you know where we've got to get to, and then you've got to just plot your path and you can do it. So that's a big chunk of what I've been trying to do lately. I want to pick up again something else that's already been said. This whole stuff that's going on in America is just bonkers. I mean, what on earth is woke about actually caring about the planet that we all live on? We're clearly not all going to move to Mars, right? So it's not woke to care about those people who live, in the same country as us, or even on the other side of the world. People are relevant, and the planet's relevant. It's not woke, it's just jolly sensible. And guess what? It's what our clients want. As James said, the year after year there's been research, and picking up on another bit, going back to my Friends Prof days, we knew then that people weren't single-issue people. There was no one issue that everyone wanted. There was always a load of issues. Now, individual funds can pick bits, but actually this whole stuff, collectively, all this stuff matters, right? So what's become clear, of course, is that we're not doing anything like enough. So the regulators have got involved, rightly. I mean, when I was first talking to regulators about this, and maybe one or two of you here that were involved at that time, the FSA didn't want to talk about this stuff. So I'm beyond delighted that the FCA is taking it really seriously. This has kind of been my life's work. So I'm absolutely delighted. And of course, we started to get the signals that this is all coming through about 2021 with the original government policy and the Green Finance paper that came out originally. That's now been superseded. But even back in 91, I've circled the relevant bit there. There was always reference to advisors and intermediaries there. So please, don't expect this to be able to pass you by, and when you're talking to your networks and your contacts and others, make sure they know that this is absolutely relevant to intermediaries. And of course SDR is part of that, and I'm not going to say a lot about SDR, although I can talk on it for England, but I will leave that to Sarah, who's kindly speaking after me. So what I will do next then is just give you an idea of really the other chunk of what I've been doing. So I've been doing the FCA stuff, which takes some time, and I also got involved in after they'd lost two previous technical authors, I agreed to write the fund standard PAS 7342, which will come along after the SDR, because it's got to mirror the SDR. And we'll come up with a standard as to what funds ought to be putting out and what would be considered best practice for a fund to put into the public domain, which will obviously pick up on regulation and give further tips and help drive things in the right direction, which for an intermediary then, whether you're a wealth manager, fund selector or a fund manager, will help you to know basically the kind of information that you should be able to expect from a fund manager. Because how can you advise on a fund that you don't understand? You can't, it doesn't work. So we've redone our website. I was running 3 websites until fairly recently. We killed one off a couple of years ago and then decided that running Fund EcoMarket I was just spending all my time on technology, which is ridiculous. So we've got the new style website. Some of you will know I'm completely obsessed with marine stuff and fish, etc. Not as obsessed as I used to be. Obviously, children come along and work takes over, but that's kind of my thing to a large extent, is fish and plants and all wildlifey stuff. So that's just about comes through ever so slightly when you click on the site. That's all you'll see about it. And then what we've done is redesigned the database because it got too big, because there are so many different things that different fund managers do. And also there's the challenges between giving high level information of, yes, we've got a policy on this, and then the specifics that sit underneath it. So you can have a policy on environmental and social issues, but then what are you actually doing? So we do try and capture both, because I know that there's a lot of people who are very entry level and they'll just say, I'm worried about ethical stuff, I'm worried about climate change, whereas others are going to want to drill down to the detail. And at some point I may try and trim the whole thing down, but that's a job for another day. But what we've done is redesigned the way it's laid out. So you've got your general fund information that any financial advisor, planner, whatever would need to look for. So product, geographic region, asset type, etc. And then SRI styles, which are our classifications that we've been running, and they're regularly updated, or been updated 3 or 4 times anyway over the 13 years. Our SRI styles, which connect through to what you'll find on your desks, and rightly or wrongly, I decided I would print some copies, having spent so long on this stuff. I thought, actually, let's give you something you can look at. So our Style Finder questionnaire, when a client ticks the various bits they're interested in, you put it in online, it will give you your top 3 SRI styles or types of strategy. So if someone's ticking stuff to do with ethical issues, then ethical will come at the top. If they're also a combination of environmental and social bits, it all comes together. There's, working out the numbers for an algorithm like that's quite hilarious, but it comes up with the top 3. So I'm not telling you this is your one solution. And within the 3, you will find options that are appropriate for your clients. And then in addition to that, just to help you visualize the quantity of stuff that's on here now. And for those of you that are fund managers that have the joyous task of filling in our questionnaire Q1 every year, which I know you find really painful, and thank you for doing it, because obviously this site doesn't work without data, right? But this is you guys ticking boxes saying, yep, we do this, no, we don't do that, and just giving us that information to enable advisors and portfolio managers, etc., to come up with that short list. They're going to do financial analysis afterwards. I don't want to be all things to all people. I'm not, I can't be, and I don't want to be. So this gives you an idea of the quantity of information that's here, and also to say, to all of you, there are quite a few fund managers who keep in regular contact with us saying, well, we've changed this now. And as the rules with SDR come along, I'm quite sure Sue will get lots of messages from people saying, we need to update this because this doesn't feel quite right. We have a policy on it, we know what we do, but it's not documented, we can't prove it. So they will land up, we do change it all the time. It's a well, I mean, poor Sue, it's a thing that changes just constantly, and that's how it's designed to be, right? It's actually, well, we're currently running 2 databases because Fund EcoMarket is still live, but Sue's workload will reduce a little bit once we manage to kill that one off. So, what does it look like? Once you've clicked on some stuff, you'll get a list of funds, and this is a load of funds that avoid coal, oil and gas majors, picking up on James's point. So, within a second or 2, you'll get your list, and then when you go into the more info area, what you will see is fund details, and I just put that turquoise strip across the middle, teal strip across the middle to show you what's in the fund entries. And this is how I see what funds need to be doing, right? So I'd be quite surprised if we didn't manage to get a lot of this coming through in at least the PAS fund standard. We need policies, we need people to put out information, preferably on one bit of paper, but on one sheet, but if it needs to be on 20 different bits, then that's fine too. We've got technology, we can use tabs for things. Just saying what your policy is on stuff. So you've got the filters, you've got the policies, you've got your process, which a lot of clients may or may not be interested in, but they all kind of connect. And then there's corporate, so that's our word for the asset management company across the board. What do they do? And then there's the dial shifter bit. You'll see on the right-hand side, the logo dial shifter. Can I have a show of hands? Does anyone here recognise this from 2019 or any other time in between? Any of you with me at that meeting? Jeremy? One or two people. Okay, so what I've wanted to do for years is to get people to really focus in on how these funds make a difference, right? So what that tab does, we've gone out to fund managers and we've said, just tell us what you're doing to try and change things. And we actually started doing that research a couple of years ago. And that text is there for a lot of funds. So it's, what is the fund doing to help shift the dial from brown to green? And what is the asset manager as a whole doing to help us get to net zero? I've zoned in on net zero because it's the biggie for asset managers. So you've got fund level and you've got entity level information on that. So when you are talking with a client, if they're interested in anything, if what they're looking at is the kind of stuff that James has mentioned, they will be interested in the kind of information that says, okay, these fund managers believe that they're helping shift the dial by doing such and such. And obviously the stuff here on our site, it's gone through people's compliance departments and whatever. So some of it's a bit longer than you might want and some of it might be a bit drier, but clearly that's important to the fund managers. And so one final slide. Can anyone here envisage in their mind a scenario in which we might be able to get to net zero without people like ourselves getting involved? Because, I really can't, okay? Without financial services and the money markets, we ain't going to get there. It's dead in the water. Forget it. It won't happen. So whatever we do as a community, we need to recognise that we're all part of this massive chain, right? And the information can't get through to clients unless it gets through to people here, and then clients can't make the decision to put their money somewhere like in renewables as opposed to coal, oil and gas, or someone that's doing something that people don't like. And we all recognise that we're going to have different funds that we all prefer, right? There are some funds people will look at here, even people in the room. You can look at someone and think, that is barking mad. Why would anyone create a fund like that? And that's actually okay, because someone else is going to look at the funds that you like and think exactly the same thing. So that's fine too. So long as they're open and transparent and clients can make clear decisions as to what they've done, what a fund does, and why, preferably why they do it as well. Then we can get round the sort of greenwash issues that we face, and we can get the information to clients, and we can shift capital in the way that we need to. And as I said earlier, there is nothing woke about caring about the environment and people. We've got this one planet that we're stuck on. We haven't got any choice, so let's actually look after it, because resources are finite, and we've all got to rub along with each other. So both aspects come into it. So the only people that can get this information out to clients, to individual investors, are people like you guys in the room. Okay, there are direct-to-consumer websites, etc. Clearly, they have a role to play also. But so you have a really important role to play. So whatever you take away with you today, please take away the feeling of empowerment that you are absolutely part of the solution here, right? And I will touch on that a little bit more with the dial shifter later. But you are part of the solution. You are the guys that can make this stuff happen. Not us on our own. We've got to get it out to the whole community. But this is really, really important. And of course, that leads me on to the bit that clearly we all need to have underpinning everything we do here, which is good regulation, which is something I, dear to my heart. We've got to get a framework working that encourages people to do good things and to meet their clients' needs better too. So with that, it is my pleasure to hand over to Sarah. Thank you.